Week 4 in the Karen Reed trial, and we're not getting any closer to any forensic evidence, but the plot thickens.
The defense still trying to bring in their case with the cross-examination of witnesses?
It feels like with every witness, things look worse and worse for the prosecution. You would think that the prosecution would be bringing in witnesses that strengthen their case, but things are looking a little rough. I'm Lainey Law.
And I'm attorney Andrew Myers.
And today we have Southern California attorney Yolie Medina. Thank you, Yolie, so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
So we're in week 4 of the Karen Reed trial, and things are looking a little sloppy. Things are looking a little messy. One person saying one thing, someone else is saying another. Things just feel a little bit off, and there's a lot of controversy around this case. A lot of people feel really strongly one way or another, so seeing it unfold has been a little crazy.
Well, again, the same theme continues, and that is that, the prosecution has been bringing in literally dozens of witnesses now at the end of week 4. And there's still no forensic evidence about the fact that there was a car accident, if there was a car accident, the fact that the car struck John O'Keefe while being driven by Karen Reed, and that caused his death. Does that sound too simple? Guess what? Those are the basic foundational elements of any case, right, Yolie? You need to prove these basic things that might have been in a newspaper headline somewhere, but you got to prove it. And so far as the witnesses come and go, it's not there.
I feel like blood in Stop and Shop bags is a little reassuring as far as forensics go, wouldn't you think?
Oh, now you're going back to the solo cups a few weeks ago. No, one of the witnesses who closed the week out was Brian Higgins, who is an ATF agent, and he apparently had a little bit of a romantic interest in Karen. And in 1 second, we're going to go through some of the text messages between the two of them as they thought about maybe going out, and then did one time. He was the state's witness. He was brought on hopefully to say that, he didn't have anything to do with it. The defense is trying to say, well, maybe he did. Let's take a look at some kind of interesting texts that happened at the end of this week. Okay, here are some text messages between Brian Higgins and Karen Reed when they were contemplating going out.
I said, "You suck and you're double trouble."
That was her, by the way. That's him reading her texts on the right in blue, and then she is on the left in gray.
Defendant responded, "You're hot." I responded, "Are you serious or messing with me?" Defendant responded, "No, I'm serious." I responded, "Failing is mutual. Is that bad? How long have you thought that?" Defendant responded, "Are you okay driving? You don't want to stay here." I responded back, "I'm fine. I have an office at the PD. You didn't answer the question." And then it starts to say, defendant said, "Rather you stay here." I responded, "If you gave me some notice, I could have." Defendant responded, "You in capital letters said you were adaptable. He never seems to want to go anywhere, without me. But honestly, the issues with the kids bother me more than him actually cheating. They are constant and it feels like a lose-lose." I responded, "You clearly have a lot of feelings swirling inside you." Defendant responded, "Yeah, it's very complicated. Sorry for the rant." I responded, or began to respond, "You can vent, babe."
Oh, so Brian Higgins is calling her babe. This is before they even had their date.
If I could turn your attention to the next page, 64, ask you to read from that, sir.
Defendant said, "Basically, I just feel like I spread myself too thin and sometimes it's thankless." I responded, Defendant responded, "You probably felt that way too." I responded, "I did at times. It was one, not two, thankfully." Defendant responded, "Want to grab a drink? Question mark.
So Karen Reed is the one that wants to go out for a drink.
I responded, if you gave me some notice, I could have. Defendant responded, you in capital letters said you were adaptable. I responded, I am, but I have my work truck with me and not my personal. Do you get angry when you don't get your way? Defendant responded, that sounds like an excuse. I rarely get my way.
Now, as far as her invitation, is that something that occurred on one time or more than one time?
I believe it was more than one time.
And at any point in time, other than the two you've already recounted, as far as going over to Mr. O'Keefe's house for the football game, or the defendant stopping by your apartment in West Roxbury, were there any other occasions you went out over the defendant's house or out with the defendant by yourself?
No, never.
And sir, if I could direct your attention to page 74.
Defendant said, are you single? ? I responded, yes. Defendant said, I don't think it's out of left field. Wasn't I already begging you to come over last Saturday? ? I responded, you getting my number from Melissa and reaching out to me? ? Defendant said, and on vacay and probably a few other occasions. I responded, you didn't really beg. Defendant said, I asked at least twice. How do people usually reach out to each other? ? I responded, why would I have thought you had any interest in me? ? Usually do it when they do live with someone. And then I said, do not do it. Defendant responded, maybe, maybe not.
So painful.
From that, sir.
It should say.
I said, I could go on and on. The defendant responded, John has showed me about 5 times the ring video of me walking you out on Saturday, and my voice and my accent are killing me softly, with an emoji of somebody throwing up. I responded, what? Defendant responded, yeah, he has cameras everywhere, you cops, with another emoji. I responded, Jesus. Defendant said, he's like Christ. Are you guys hooking up? ? And I said, OMG, great.
I'd like to turn your attention to the next page, 78, sir.
All right, we'll go through one more of these.
I responded, I don't need drama, dude. Defendant said, no, it's fine. I responded, seriously? Defendant said, I'm serious, with an exclamation point. I said, you legit planted one on me. Defendant responded, I know where the cameras are anyway, duh. And then it was OMG Bruins with an emoji after that. I responded, so your slick move isn't on there, with some question marks? Defendant responded, course not. I responded, oh my God. And then I said, I almost, an emoji with somebody throwing up. Defendant responded, it was a peck anyway. I kissed Carrie and gay Jeff too. I responded, yeah, weak. I agree.
All right, one more, and that's it.
I'm getting secondhand
This is like
embarrassment.
getting potato chips. Only one more.
My skin's crawling.
No, not that I recall. Defendant said, LOL, funny. I responded, so now he is jealous of me? ? Defendant said, no, with an exclamation. I told you, he likes you a lot. I said, which makes this worse? ? Defendant said, you said or did something at the bar last week, and he goes, I like Brian more and more. I responded, I think he's a good dude too. Defendant responded, yeah, he is. I responded, funny. What's your end game? What do you want from me? You will just confuse the out of yourself, because I'm a lot of fun.
Say.
Can you say that on YouTube?
Now, sir, the he
say what
that you're referring to in those text communications, who was that, just for clarity?
This is a sex
John
communication.
If I could direct your attention to page 84.
All right, just one more. One more potato chip. Just one.
And ask you to read from that page, sir.
Sex communications.
Is the auto caption misunderstanding, but
Look at Yannetti
accurate.
scratching his head. He's like,
I said, it was fun. Defendant said, I've complimented you today too, with a couple of exclamation points and then some type of emoji. I said, and kicked my nuts in. Defendant said, OMG, how? I responded, if I had more notice, I would have grabbed a drink somewhere, so I'm all set with that's, and then I said in quotations, that's fine, but I am not asking again. Defendant said, well, it was 7 p.m. and I'm super cool, so right now I'm asking again with some type of I think it's a smiley face. I responded, coming to your house would have been bad for the both of us.
I don't think it's a smiley face. I think it's a wink, as in
It's a
okay.
wink.
It's a wink. Yeah. Okay.
For starters, you wouldn't have wanted me to leave. The defendant responded, now equals not. That sounds good. I responded, that's trouble. Defendant said, why? Question mark.
All right. One more.
9-0. The defendant said, no, I'm busting your chops. It's okay. I responded, no, you are sensitive. Nice try. You don't think if I came over for a drink, we would have gotten carried away. Defendant said, you in capital
What does that mean?
letters said you were adaptable and tons of fun. I took that as an invite for an invite. And I responded, oh, okay. Defendant responded, I'm 42. I know what happens when you invite someone over for a drink.
Ooh.
I responded,
Could she elaborate on that?
you're the master of avoidance. So you think I would just give it up. Defendant responded, I've been a lot in my life. I have a little bit of cop DM mindset, and then said, been through.
Okay. All right. I think everybody gets the gist of this conversation. It went on and on and on, and apparently.
Very, very interesting.
What do you make of that, having heard this for the first time?
Well, I think she's definitely flirtatious, for sure. She was living with Mr. O'Keefe at the time this was going on, right?
Well, no, they actually weren't living together. They had separate homes, but they spent a great deal of time together. And she also took care of his kids. He had adopted 2 children whose parents had both died, and he was doing the right thing and taking care of them. They were his niece and nephew when their parents had passed away, regrettably, horribly. And she spent a lot of time there. He actually would get mad at John O'Keefe would get mad at her because she would dote on the kids, spend too much time and money on the kids. But, that's a good thing.
Yeah.
So I think, this is the prosecution's witness, because what happened, we could go on and on and on with these texts. And I don't know. I wonder what the jury thought about all this.
I don't know, but it's kind of like, you have somebody there and they're putting out this private conversation, allegedly, well, it's supposed to be private, I think. And it's almost like, well, it gives you a mindset of her that she's just like a very flirtatious woman. I don't know if that's good or bad, but
I think it reflects poorly on him too, because he's aware of something going on, that she has another relationship. So even though he's putting her out as a flirtatious woman, at the same time, it's just like you see him engaging with it back. And as a jury, I feel like I'd be questioning his ethics. It's just like, it seems like he's aware that he's sneaking around and being shady. That's not going to instill trust in him.
Well, the prosecution put Mr. Higgins on the stand to introduce, again, this theory that maybe Karen had some motive, because although Mr. Higgins and Karen were said to really only date briefly, and it's said that, nothing came of it, if you read between the lines, she was interested in moving on in her life. And there was other testimony that she was interested in moving on, that the relationship had, quote unquote, run its course. But how we get from that to her running over O'Keefe in her car, it's a stretch, isn't it, Yolie?
It is a stretch. It's a stretch because she wasn't married to him. She had her own home apparently. So if she wanted to move on, she could move on. And it sounded like she was already like trying to move on maybe, but no, you're right, Lainey, about him too. And going along with it, I think she started it. Well, it looked like she started it, like the flirtation, but I'm not really sure because we don't have the whole context. She started it and then he carried on with it, and so, it reflects poorly on him too. I mean,
So let's fast forward. If I'm a juror, I don't really buy that. Okay, she wanted to break up with him, and
the easiest solution is murder.
well, yeah,
like, oh yeah, let me just back up and hit him.
single people
Hopefully he
date,
dies.
and sometimes the dating goes somewhere, and sometimes it doesn't go somewhere. But you move on. You don't back over the person with a car. At least I've never done that. Anyway.
But the funny thing is the intent element that they have to prove. Backing into someone with a car doesn't. I mean, that's not the best way to unalive somebody.
No. You watch too much true crime, Yolie. But you're right. You're right. So let's fast forward to after he is John O'Keefe is gone. There's this mystery in this case. One of the big contentions for both sides is this middle of the night or early morning Google search, or how long to die in the snow. This is something that was found on Jennifer McCabe's phone. And the defense says that this came about at 2:27 in the morning. And so that proves that the people inside of Brian Albert's house knew that he was outside. And Jennifer McCabe says, oh, no, that was a mistake. And, we can get into that. But she did combat under cross-examination with attorney Alan Jackson.
Did you, in fact, use a phrase to Google search how long it takes for someone to die of extreme temperatures?
I did in the morning at the request of your client.
And what phrase did you use?
I'm not sure.
Really?
Correct. I was.
After 2.5 years of this, you don't know the phrase that you used?
Objection, Your Honor.
There's so many lies and misconceptions on social media.
No question.
Oh, I apologize.
Now, Yolie, would you agree with me that all attorneys, advise their clients how to deal with cross-examination and say as little as but do you think that she took the advice a little bit too far?
Yeah, because she's actually arguing. I mean, she's actually like trying to argue with him.
And it doesn't look that great, does it?
No, it looks like she's angry, and she mentions what's out on social media so as to add some other element into it that, see, don't believe social media, don't believe social media. That's how she comes across to me, that she's arguing, and she's for the purpose of trying to create some kind of like things are not as they seem, and it's social media.
Lainey, have you ever heard that saying, methinks thou dost protest too much? Do you think that's what's going on here?
I definitely agree with that. I mean, it's like they got the sustained, and she just keeps going. It's like there's no question. It's just like you don't have to answer anymore. She's choosing to kind of go out of her way to pick at the fight a little bit. And I agree with you where the easiest thing to do is just answer the question, yes or no. And it doesn't reflect well on her to be combative. We already have this jury that, is already probably going to be feeling some type of way at this point, 4 weeks deep. Not helpful.
And if she thinks that she can get the better of defense attorney Alan Jackson, who has represented some very high profile people over the years, and he flew all the way in from Los Angeles for this. If she thinks she can get the better of him, she's got another thing coming, and here it comes.
Are you telling me you don't remember what Google search you put in?
Karen was screaming. My hands were shaking, and she was saying, Google hypothermia, how long does it take to die in the cold?
And what phrase did you put in your phone? I'm just asking you to say it.
Why don't you show me it?
You literally don't remember?
Again, she was screaming, Google hypothermia, how long does it take to die in the cold?
How about?
And I picked up my phone and I started Googling.
And you literally, to this day, right now, under oath, you're saying you don't remember that phrase that you used.
Objection.
I'll allow it.
Is that what you're saying?
I'm saying that at her...
Do you remember it or do you not, Ms. McCabe? That's a simple question.
That morning, I don't remember specifically.
Yes or no? Just answer yes or no.
Specifically what I Googled, but I do know what you've put out to the social media.
How about this?
What you put out to
Costs
the
long to die in cold. That sound familiar?
Yeah, it's been
Why
everywhere
does that sound so familiar?
because you've put it out in social media.
Well, I haven't put anything
Girl,
out on
say you
social media 'cause I don't
mistyped.
personally have social media.
I'm sorry, Turtle Boy did.
So if the world
What'd you say, Lainey?
It's just like, I don't remember exactly what I typed, but apparently I mistyped house long. It's just like, if she's saying she told her to Google it, then just say it. It's like, I don't recall, but I just, it's not that serious to be fighting with it. It's just like, Turtle Boy is just like, bro, just, even if you did look it up, you're saying you did look it up. Why do we have to add like, oh, she was screaming at me, I was panicked and mistyped.
She's trying to justify why she doesn't remember, but she does remember.
I think by fighting so much with Jackson, I think she's just highlighting it and focusing the jury's attention on this because, this trial has been going on for 4 weeks, and some of the testimony has just been, oh my goodness, more. But now by fighting with the guy, if I'm a juror, I'm going, whoa, what's going on here? I'm paying attention to this.
world happens to know it, that's not on me, is it?
I guess not.
I guess not. Costs long to die in cold is what you put in to the Google search, right?
If you say so.
You see this first search that says costs long to die in cold?
I do.
What's that time?
You've got the, it's right over at 2:27
AM or PM?
a.m.
Ms. McCabe, you made that search at 2:27 a.m. because you knew that John O'Keefe was outside in your sister's lawn dying in the cold, didn't you?
Absolutely not. I did not make that search at that time. No.
Realized the next morning, after John was discovered, after 6 a.m., that you had an incriminating search on your phone, didn't you?
Absolutely not.
So her story is that even though the Celebrite readout that we were just looking at shows that she made that Haas Long to Die in the Snow search at 2:27 in the morning, her story is no, she didn't make that until, after 6 o'clock the next morning when they were standing there in the blizzard, and that, oh no, her phone made a mistake because she was in bed at 2:27 and she was Googling for local coverage of a sporting event that her son had been in that previous night. And so that apparently that window stayed open. Please don't laugh, folks, because they're going to bring in an expert that is going to say that that's how it happened. I'm just telling you what her story would be. So
that her window stayed open?
Yeah.
The phone on her window stayed open?
The window stayed open from when she was searching for news on the local sporting event. The window stayed open. And then when she really texted it after 6 o'clock in the morning, or didn't text it, Googled it, that it went in under that time. And apparently there's going to be an expert that's going to come on the stand and say that. Now, you and I both know that experts can say all kinds of things. But also, I think you and I both know that oftentimes juries just cancel out the experts and listen to the credibility of the witnesses. So I don't know.
Yeah.
All right. So the other very key witness that went on the stand in week 4 was Carrie Roberts. Carrie Roberts, you'll remember, is a longtime friend of John O'Keefe's. She knew him for a long time. She testified that she, McCabe, and Reed were the ones that found O'Keefe in the snow at around 6 o'clock in the morning. Roberts testified that she got an early morning call from Karen Reed that O'Keefe was missing. They checked O'Keefe's house first, unsuccessfully. Then the three of them drove to 34 Fairview Road in Canton. Roberts and McCabe were up front. Reed was in the back seat. Roberts testified that as they arrived, Reed screamed, "Let me out of this car," and started kicking the door. Roberts testified that she hadn't seen O'Keefe's body when Reed did. Carrie Roberts recounted the scene as they drove up to that house on 34 Fairview.
Karen was frantic. She wouldn't put her seatbelt on, and I was getting nervous because we're driving in a blizzard. She kept leaning in between the two seats. I think at some point she was texting in the back seat, and then she'd be leaning. She was just frantic the whole morning. Jen said, my sister's house is right up here. And all of a sudden, Karen said, there he is, there he is. Let me the F out of this car. And she started kicking the door.
And how was she kicking the door?
With her feet. Well, how was she kicking the door?
How hard was she kicking?
Oh, pretty hard. I mean, she wanted to get out of the car, but it was locked because once you start driving, the back doors lock. So I looked over and I didn't see anything. And I looked at Jen and I said, she's crazy. And I unlocked the door and I sat back and watched. And she ran over to a mound of snow.
So the story here is that some people feel that Karen Reed knew that he was there from leaving him there the night before because she saw the mound of snow before Carrie Roberts and Jen McCabe did. But I don't know. I think maybe she was just looking more intently. I don't know if I got a whole lot out of Carrie Roberts' testimony. Did you folks?
I mean, I feel like if anything, it gives, probable doubt that it wasn't intentional. She's having a meltdown, freaking out, kicking the door, panicking is just like if you're intentionally trying to kill someone, 6 a.m., that's a lot of energy to pull out to be having kind of an episode, try and find this body. As far as like a mound of snow, it's going to stick out a little bit theoretically if you have a pile of snow that's maybe like a foot higher than the rest. So it's not totally unreasonable that if you're looking at a field and all the snow is completely level and you see something that looks weird, if you're in hysterics or you're very emotional, to go panic and think that's it. And maybe she did see it. And as far as the jury is concerned, that doesn't really do anything for the prosecution, in my opinion.
Yeah, and the intent element, it doesn't, it's almost like maybe she could have hit him with her car and was pissed off and took off. But she didn't mean to, unalive him. But at the same time, why would she be so erratic like that? But there are a lot of people who can fake those things and act like, oh my God. But I don't know enough about Karen Reed to even say one way or another, but it didn't really do much in terms of either. It didn't sway me one way or another.
No, me neither. I think what the prosecution is trying to prove here is that she knew she hit him and she knew he was out there. And so she, she saw the body in the snow before Carrie Roberts and Jen McCabe did. But I don't buy that for a couple of reasons. First of all, they went over to his house first and checked on if it's a raging blizzard snowstorm, which you know nothing about out there in California. Nope, there, Yolie. Nope. It's a raging New England blizzard. It's just snowing like crazy. But they went to his house first. Why would they do that? Why would they drive all the way over to his house before they went over to the scene here? That's number one. Number two, this doesn't prove intent. It would show, if true, what an evil person. And I like you, I don't know Karen. I've never met her. I only know her through, watching the trial and from press reports, which I'm finding are less and less trustworthy. That's evil. That's evil. How evil would you have to be, ladies, to actually back into a guy with your Lexus SUV to the point you break the headlight, knock him down in the snow, and take off and leave him there to the next morning? That's not intent. That goes beyond it into evil. I mean, I would hope that somebody I dated who didn't want to go out with me anymore wouldn't do that. Come on.
Right?
I think even if it's intentional, you can hit someone with your car. It doesn't mean you want them to die. Like maybe you wanted to hit them, but you can't really prove that you wanted them to die as a result.
I agree with what you said earlier, Yolie, and that is if she really, had the intent and if she wanted to terminate his life, or I guess on YouTube here we say unalive him. Remember, I haven't been doing this for that long. If she wanted to unalive him, aren't there easier ways to do it? And our true crime audience knows what we mean without going down the list.
Unless she was trying to make it look like an accident, but she has no way of knowing whether backing into him is going to, terminate his life. There's just no.
Yeah, I have a problem with that. And so now we move to another area where they're trying to show intent, and that is the Aruba incident. In order to convict on second-degree murder, as we said before, the state has to prove intent. Prosecutor Adam Lally contends that Karen Reed was furious over an allegation that she saw John O'Keefe kissing and maybe making out with another woman during a New Year's trip to Aruba, and that just made her enraged. Prosecutor Lally put two sisters on the stand to bring out this allegation, Laura and Marietta, or Etta Sullivan. Now, they were close to Mr. O'Keefe from way back. The older sister, Laura, said that she had first met him in 2013, and O'Keefe is actually the godfather of her son. O'Keefe is the godfather to Laura's son. So now there was an incident that some have described as Marietta Sullivan, who people call Etta variously, and this is just what people say, making out with or kissing John. But on the stand, Marietta Etta explained how she ran into John and he was arriving at the bar.
So he sort of stumbled in. I came out of the elevator and...
Have you ever stumbled into a bar? Oh, take the Fifth Amendment.
My initial response to him was...
What? Okay.
Whoa, you okay? I actually said, whoa, Godfather, are you okay? But yeah, he...
Be sure to address
was
by
stumbling into
Godfather.
the lobby.
Godfather, are
And
you-
go over to him at that point?
I did. I went up to him and I gave him a hug.
And what happened then?
I pulled back. He was glassy-eyed, looking above me. We never made eye contact. He was looking above me. It looked like he was looking for someone. I asked him, where are you going? Assuming that he would be coming to the pool bar to meet us. He kept looking around and he indicated that he was going that way and pointed toward a bank of rooms to our right. And I said, well, you should go that way. And I stepped back and I guided him toward the area that he was going.
So that is Etta's version of what happened when people said that they were making out or they were kissing. Now, the other sister, Laura, said that, she had talked to John, who she'd known for a long time, and he just didn't seem like himself on that Aruba trip, which was only a little more than 3 weeks before John passed.
I said, what's going on? And he said, nothing. I said, did Etta and Karen have words? And he said, I don't know. And I said, well, that's not what Etta said. And I asked him if everything was okay. And at that time, his phone was lighting up, and it looked like calls and texts. And it said Karen on his phone. I asked him if he needed to take it, and he said, yes, she's crazy. I got to take care of this. He seemed distant, and I asked him if he was okay. And he kind of just, shrugged it off. And I said, are you happy? And he kind of, just rolled his eyes and shrugged it off. And I said, well, something along the lines of life is too short to not be happy. And he goes, well, Laura, it is what it is. And I did ask him if he wanted to talk about it. I said, do you want to talk about it? And he's like, not really.
So again, this is the prosecution's witness. The state is trying to say, look, there were problems between the two of them. So that's, that's why there was some bad feelings by her. And I just, again, I don't think that this rises to the level. Bad feelings in a relationship don't necessarily lead to the conclusion that you're going to have the intent to back into him with your car.
Yeah, I mean, they're trying to. It looks like maybe they're trying to say motive was that she didn't want to be with him anymore, but intent is different. Intent. You don't really need motive in most states to.
No.
But intent is different. And did she intentionally, back into him to unalive him? That's, this is all like stuff that happens in every kind of relationship. You know what I mean? It's almost like gossip.
What kind of relationships have you had where people back into each other with a car? Yolie?
No, not the part where she backs into the car. No, not the part where she backs into him, but the part where they're talking about how, you know, she was upset and she was getting texts.
Right.
You know, I mean,
Sure.
things. You know, when there's a lot of things that go on in relationships that has nothing to do with what occurred.
No.
You know, yeah, no, not the backing up part. I was talking about the part where. Right. She says, he said, that's what Etta said. Etta told me that, you know, Etta said something else. And it just seems like they're just gossiping about his relationship with her.
Okay. So now you mentioned Etta. Let's go back to Etta one last time and find out how it was that Etta met Karen Reed for the first time after Karen apparently saw this little bit of a huggy hug.
As I'm going back in, I hear someone yell, "Who the fuck was that?" And as I come around the corner, I see Mr. O'Keefe walking toward a woman. And he said, excuse me. He said, "Calm down, that's Laura's little sister."
And what happened then?
When I came back around the corner, I said, after Mr. O'Keefe said, "Calm down, that's Laura's little sister," I said, "Hi, nice to meet you." That's when Miss Reed's head snapped up, and she very loudly told me to go f myself across the lobby. And I said, "Yeah, f you too," and walked away.
Ladies, this is supposed to be a nice vacation in Aruba. I don't know how any of this testimony between the Sullivan sisters, Etta and Laura, I don't really see, honestly, how this plays into the case at all. Do you?
I don't. It's like cat fighting.
It's like, oh, he's too drunk. He comes in. He can't even talk. He's stumbling. Now he's rolling his eyes, saying that, you know, like being able to hold a conversation. And he's able to go up and be like, no, it's, you know, her sister. It doesn't really help the, you know, prove anything. It doesn't really get anywhere with anything. It just is, you know, you can tell stories. Like you said, it's gossip. They're just talking about the relationship, but it doesn't really say anything.
You know, and hey, breaking news. People go on vacation in Aruba, one of those all-inclusive things, and they get drunk and say things they didn't mean later. Really? Is that breaking news? Does that really prove anything in this case? So I'm just wondering, you know, at the end of week 4 of this trial, there have been literally dozens of witnesses. And, you know, it's really, I don't like the term he said, she said, but it really is turned into a lot of this stuff. And, you know, I don't know. I've heard different attorneys say different things commenting on this, and maybe Adam Lally, the prosecuting attorney, is indeed holding out until the end to bring in the witnesses that are going to put the nuts and bolts of this whole thing together. I don't know if that's true. What do you think of that strategy, Yolie?
I don't know, because, you know, usually when you're talking to a jury, they remember the beginning and they remember the end of things, and the middle is sort of what's kind of not so memorable. And so I'm not sure if that strategy would work, but what I think they're doing is, like, they're trying to in some way establish some kind of motive, and maybe at the end they'll have some grand witness that's going to tie it all together. But right now I don't see it.
I don't either. I don't understand where they're going with all of these witnesses. Somebody knocked my headphones out, but anyhow, I just don't see that trial strategy. I mean, you're right. The two big things when you're putting a trial together are primacy and finality. Primacy and finality. You start out strong and you end with a strong witness, and they really didn't start out with any strong witnesses. And so I guess that's the strategy, is to hold out until the end. But I don't know, with all these witnesses, I don't know. Certainly Laura and Etta are attractive young ladies, and, you know, I don't see what piece of the puzzle they put together, though. I really don't.
I don't either. I just see that it's kind of like the prosecution is kind of trying to make Karen Reed look bad and show something like motive that, I don't know, but it doesn't really do anything for me.
No. What about you, Lainey?
I agree. It's just a story for the sake of story. I feel like none of the witnesses really seem like a puzzle piece, you know? It's just like you're taking two pieces that don't really fit in together and don't necessarily make a lot of sense together, and you're trying to paint the picture, in my opinion.
Here's, I guess, my closing thought, and I'll give you guys the opportunity to have your closing thoughts. My closing thought is this, and that is that if you remember going way back to the very beginning in their opening arguments, remember primacy and finality? In their opening arguments, David Yannetti said Karen Reed was framed. She did not back into John O'Keefe. Wait for us. We go second. The state goes first. The state always goes first. You can listen to their witnesses, but wait for us. We have a case and we will put on a case. So that means that even at the end of week 4, when we've heard all this testimony, if David Yannetti is going to follow through with his promises, and I have no reason to believe that he won't, both he and Alan Jackson, there's fireworks ahead. There's fireworks ahead. And, we've only heard the beginning of it. They've got a lot of allegations. We've talked about them in past episodes. We'll talk about them in future episodes. But the Brian Higgins thing, circling back to the beginning of this episode, that plays into it because he was one of the 3 that are said to have the means, motive, and opportunity here. And even though he came in as the state's witness, the defense is going to kind of turn that around and say, he was kind of taunted into something by Karen Reed. He was we saw she was kind of being a little bit flirty, come over for a drink, I'm not happy. And then she ghosted him in the end. So according to those who go along with this theory, he at least had a motive. Now, whether it's a strong motive, I don't know, but there's a lot ahead in this case. There's a lot ahead, and I think we're just barely scratching the surface and the fireworks here.
But some of it seems, some of the evidence that's coming in seems too prejudicial and not probative. It almost seems like it's prejudicial to Karen Reed that, look, she called her, she told her to f off, and she, what I mean? Like she's been flirting with a guy, and it almost seems prejudicial to her, to make her look bad, and it's not probative of anything of substance in a murder case. So I don't know.
No, crazy case. Mm-hmm. Lainey, closing thoughts.
I think Yolie, that was very well said. I agree. We're not really getting to anything with this, and like you said, it's just, look, she's a bad person, and it's not even very helpful when you have someone who's like, oh, wait, like with the text messages, it's like they're both not necessarily in the right. And it's just like in all of these situations, it's, like you said, alcohol's involved in Aruba, like, breaking news. So yeah, with all of that, I don't know. I think the jury is, has their opinions leaning one way or the other at this point. And, we haven't, like you said, we're still waiting on the defense.
So I don't know, if I were a juror, I'd be getting a little bit tired by now. I mean, it takes you away from your home life, your personal life, your work, I don't think I could sit in a jury for 4 weeks. I've told you my story about juries. They don't want me in a jury anyhow because I'm an attorney, even though I know other attorneys who've sat on a jury, but I don't think that it'll ever happen for me because they, but if I were on a jury, 4 weeks of this is just, I don't know.
It's like a soap opera. It's almost like a soap opera. Like you're waiting for the next thing, but it really has nothing to do with like proving, well, in my opinion, and I don't know, but it just seems like they're going a little off into proving that she intentionally ran him over. There's a lot of extraneous evidence that is really just kind of like a soap opera.
I agree. I think you're right. So we hope that our viewers have enjoyed this. We know that this is a controversial case. Feel free to comment down below. As we always say at the end of the show, be kind, be respectful, whether you're in the grocery store or the gas station. You don't know what the other guy is going through, so be kind, be respectful, even if he's taking too long, in the aisle and you want to push them aside. Don't be like me. Be polite and kind and respectful, but also be that way down in the comments. We appreciate people that don't agree with us. We appreciate all kinds of comments. We've actually gotten ideas for future content from people that have offered us ideas. But if you personalize it and say, I think you're a, that's why we have the delete button, folks. So thank you. So thank you for joining us, and we hope that you have a great day. You have been watching About the Law, a production of the law offices of Andrew D. Myers in Methuen in the Merrimack Valley of Massachusetts and in Derry, just outside of Manchester, New Hampshire. Remember to click the like and subscribe buttons down below. And if you enjoyed this video, be sure to share it with your friends and others. If you'd like to talk to me about an injury case, a car accident, a slip and fall, a serious bodily injury case, or some other case, please feel free to contact me. I'd love to talk to you. You can contact us through my website at attorney-myers.com. We have a contact us block, or you can call on one of the telephone numbers we've given there, or you can email me at andrew@attorney-myers.com. The foregoing is offered for informational purposes only. It is not intended as and does not constitute legal advice. Laws vary widely from state to state. You should rely only on the advice given to you during a personal consultation by a local attorney thoroughly familiar with state laws and the area of practice in which your concern lies. This podcast must be and hereby is labeled advertisement in some jurisdictions. And that's that.
Yeah, and that's that.
And that's that.
Good episode. Good episode.
Yeah. Boy, that Karen Reed case is gonna heat up.
Yeah, if Yannetti follows true to what he said, I think it'll be really interesting. I think people, we're waiting for the goods. And
can't they just do like a directed verdict or something, like at the end of the prosecution's case, say they didn't meet their burden?
Well, yeah, isn't that, don't all defense attorneys do that as a matter of rote? I was taught a billion years ago, I don't want to admit how many years ago, I was taught that it's malpractice not to bring a directed verdict.
Okay. So they can do that in the criminal courts, right? I mean,
it's malpractice not to. Yeah. I mean, why would you want to go forward and bring on more witnesses and testimony? And if you didn't bring a motion for a directed verdict, oh, absolutely. Now, if they brought it today, I think the judge would think about it. But in the end, I used to know a prosecutor in Massachusetts quite well, and she had a thing called the Prosecutor's Handbook, and surreptitiously she photocopied it and gave it to me, and it had every crime, every statute, every offense that you could think of in Massachusetts, and it had a little checkbox. What are the elements of motor vehicle homicide? What are the elements of second degree murder? And for those of us who are non-attorneys, and I don't mean to offend you, Lainey, because you know this already. Every crime has certain elements. You have to prove intent. You have to prove that there was a killing. You have to prove that there was an unlawful death. You have to prove that as a result of conduct by the defendant, the plaintiff died. So there's a little checkbox in the prosecutor's handbook. And if I had this years ago, and I'm not even a criminal attorney. I do mostly, not all, but mostly all civil law. If I had that years ago, you got to think that the Commonwealth's attorney, assistant district attorney for Norfolk County in Massachusetts, Adam Lally, he has something like that. Yes, I would imagine before he rests his case, he'll open up the handbook if he doesn't already have it in his binder there. Did I hit all the bases? So that's all you have to do. That's all you have to do is introduce some evidence from which the jury could find each and every element. So, of course, I would think he will do that. I don't know.
So far, I'm not too impressed, but we'll see. Maybe it's all leading up to something when he does his when he couple last witnesses. I don't know.
Don't know. I'm still open. I'm still like, I'm not saying guilty. I'm not saying innocent. I'm honestly keeping my mind open. And I get people in the comments that say, how can you not see that she's innocent? We didn't do our comment section this week, but this week, I don't know, midweek, we had 2 comments right next to each other that were just vehement. How can you not see she's innocent? And how can you not see she's guilty? I mean, people have strong feelings about this case.
Well, yeah, and maybe it's just because what they watch and they see that she said, "Oh well, F you, get the F out of here," and they think, "Oh, she's a bad person." But I don't know. It's just I'm looking at it from the prosecution trying to prove that she did it. So far, the very limited information that I have, I don't see that. But we don't know what's going to happen. Right.
I would have brought my strongest witnesses out first. The forensics guy, the accident.
Forensics. That would be important because this is all he said, she said stuff about what they saw. It's easily attackable. What they said, what who she was with, and what they were doing. Were they drinking? And it's all like it's not like hard forensic evidence.
There is an accident reconstructionist who did a reconstruction, and they've got to bring that guy in the stand. They've got to bring him on, I would think.
Well, maybe they're waiting till the end, and maybe because the defense said wait to hear from us, that he's gonna pack it at the end so that they have the best evidence in their memory at the end, so that when the defense comes on, then they will have that in their head,
Right, exactly. Because if you're going to have 4, 5, 6 weeks of testimony, I'll be honest, I don't remember the earlier testimony in this case from several weeks ago. I don't remember it, and I
made a whole list of all of the people involved. I made a whole list because I couldn't keep them straight. So imagine a jury, and it's all about who said what. She said this, he said that, and so Julie Nagel was somebody, you're trying to go back and piece this together. And then now you have the Etta and Laura.
And I had it mixed up. I didn't know which one was the blonde and which one was the brunette. I had them mixed up. I straightened myself out before we did this episode, but I was confused.
And then you got the guy with the knuckles. That's
Colin Albert. Yeah. He says he fell on his knuckles. You missed that. You were away.
Yeah. I don't know.
You're right. There's a huge cast of characters, and I was tipped off to this about a year ago from a friend, and since then I've been reading everything I could find about it. But Yolie, you're a good juror because you're in California, and I understand that this has not been on the top of the newspapers as it has been here.
No. Plus, I don't get the newspaper, the kind that they throw.
I don't think anybody does anymore. Does anybody get a newspaper anymore? I don't know.
No. But in general, it's just and it could be because I do civil more that I don't see it like in the but I think it is gaining some traction here.
Well, you don't have to be a criminal attorney to understand the case. We attorneys are trained to communicate with a juror who is, it could be anybody. It could be a rocket scientist. It could be a teacher. It could be an accountant. It could be, anybody. It could be anybody at all. And I'm not going to disparage anybody by going down the list, but we should be able to communicate our thoughts to anybody in the world that comes in. So I don't know. Lainey, as a non-attorney, is she guilty or innocent? Or do you not want to say?
If we're proving beyond a reasonable doubt, I have no concrete reason to believe it was an intentional murder, homicide, whatever we want to call it. I think that if it was, considered an accident, I think that would have a higher likelihood of convincing the jury. But I think if we're trying to prove that she had intent for murder, it's looking a little not intentional.
All right. So, Yolie, again, thank you for helping us out. Hope we will become regulars.
Yeah, hopefully.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
Thank you, guys.
Adios.
Bye.